Hello everyone, welcome back. My name is Michael, and today is the day that I finally tried making clothing. In particular, we're going to work on replicating this simple pair of PJ shorts that I have because I feel like it can't be that difficult, right? For this project and probably every project going forward, I need to make a pattern before actually making the object. This is a lot easier said than done. If I were willing to deconstruct these shorts, I could probably just rip it apart at the seams just like that. Then I would have my pieces that I could easily trace or copy or do something and then sew up all the new fabric. I can't really afford to tear these shorts apart because I need them to sleep. So what I'm going to do is do the wrapping paper method, try to get a rough idea of what I need and how much I need and the dimensions and the shapes, and then just go from there. I'm probably going to tweak some of the stuff to make it a little bit more efficient, a little bit more tailored towards me, but let's just see if I can figure it out on the fly. Speaking of flies, these shorts won't have one. It's going to simplify my life a whole tremendous amount by just having 4 main pieces and then a bonus 5th piece. Basically, we have the 2 front pieces as you would expect, and then the 2 back pieces, and then there's this weird under crotch area piece that I haven't noticed on any other pairs of shorts I looked at, but they were here, so the math works out in the end, I guess. It just seemed very strange that I had this piece that I've never noticed before. When transferring my pattern to my fabric, I had to be conscious that there is a right side and a left side, so I actually have to flip the pattern to get the reverse so I don't accidentally end up with like a pair of shorts that has 4 right sides on it. Here I'm just cutting it out, pretty simple stuff, just kind of giving myself about an inch or so of seam allowance that I'm going to trim down later more precisely. I just want to make sure that until I get comfortable with kind of eyeballing it, I give myself as much runway as possible, just so I don't screw up in the end. Once everything was pressed flat and there were no more wrinkles, I'm going ahead and doing what I just said and giving myself a more measured seam allowance. For all the straight edges, I used the rotary cutter and a metal ruler just to make sure that it was as straight as possible. There are a few curved angles, so I just had to eyeball it with the scissors, but I think I did a pretty good job. Here, I'm finally pinning up the 2 sides, so the 2 front sides, right sides of the fabric together, and then the 2 back sides, right sides of the fabric together. I tried to line the seam up as best as I could, but I think it was on the rear pieces. One of the sides, like I don't know if it was the right or the left side, was like an inch short. It made no sense. It worked out in the end, but I was totally freaked out while I was pinning it up that I had screwed something up somewhere in the process and I had only just begun. And then your standard straight stitch all the way down that seam line. I don't own a serger, so I did the next best thing and I used a zigzag stitch to kind of lock the fabric together. So when that frayed edge does fray even more, it's just not going to kind of fray into my structural seam. Now I'm just pressing the seam flat open because this is the front or the back of the pants. You don't want this weird kind of like, I don't know what you would call it, like a crease down the center. It would just seem really weird. This is where things start to get a little bit tricky for me because I'm not sewing straight lines anymore. I'm kind of sewing straight lines along a curve, and it's like the fabric was bending in all these ways that I wasn't actually sure, so I just gave it my best shot. It turned out to work in the end. It did not make sense logically while I was doing it in the moment. And this is where I got lazy, setting the camera up at the table and then walking over to where I'm sewing and then walking back and forth. I was just like, no, I'm just going to change the camera angle and you guys are going to have to stick with this wide shot showing my messy apartment. But I'm basically doing the same thing with that square patch, but for the back. So now all 5 pieces will be held together by this weird middle like bridge piece. And then once more, you should expect this for every seam that I do. another zigzag stitch, just so all these stay locked down. And then once again, press it flat because you don't want any of this weird kind of rolling and kind of buckling of the fabric. Up to this point, the shorts did not look like shorts in any universe. So when I actually started pinning it together, it was like, oh, okay, I'm on the right track. This is making sense now. This actually looks like a pair of shorts. Don't get me wrong, they were huge because of the whole elastic situation we're gonna figure out in a little bit. These pants were like humongous, but they were starting to look like the thing I had envisioned in my head. For how daunting it seemed in the beginning when I started this project, it's just the same 3 moves over and over and over. You sew the seam, you sew a zigzag stitch, and then you press that seam flat open. And then you move on to the next one and rinse and repeat, just over and over and over. I'm not sure what you would call this part of the shorts. It's like the hem of the shorts or the cuff of the shorts. Basically, I'm just folding it over so it has a nice kind of bottom of it. This is where I was doing a lot of guesswork to make sure that they kind of lined up. They turned out to line up pretty well in the end, but I had no idea because there is a right side and a left side, and I didn't want one to be like an inch longer than the other. To me right now, watching this footage back, it doesn't seem any more difficult than sewing a mask. Like, there's no real tough moves. It's just like right now I'm just doing a top stitch over the whole bottom of the shorts. I don't know, it's as basic as it gets. I am genuinely impressed with getting this far and seemingly having a pair of short shorts. Like, this is unbelievable that it's worked out. There's been a few issues, like I've said, but overall, the bottom 90% is done. Now I just have to work on the elastic on the top, and that is, I think that's going to be the trickiest part. I have this 1.5 inch sports elastic that I think should work. It felt kind of stretchy enough where it'll be comfortable to sleep in, but I'm just gonna jump in and see if I can figure this out. This is my first time experimenting with elastic, so I'm making it up as I go along. I'm trying to measure out like how much I need for the waistband, and then like factoring in if I want to fold it over a second time so it has like this nice little like slip pocket that it's gonna fit in. And so I think in the end I folded it over about 2 inches and then folded that under itself about 1/4 inch. So I had maybe 1.5 inches to 1 3/4 inches waistband size that I was going to hopefully feed the elastic in without issue, but we'll get to that. It was at this point in the project that I started to regret buying such a small ironing board. I had the option when I was buying it to buy the mini one or buy a full-size one, and I live in an apartment and I wasn't planning on sewing very much, and like how much would I really use it? And just this project alone, I've used it like 10 times. So I wish I had that kind of real estate and that capacity to do the full piece and not have to do it in like these little 8-inch chunks. But enough of that. Right now, just doing a top stitch all the way around the waistband, trying to stay as close to that line as possible because my biggest fear at this point was cutting in too much and not having the elastic sit flush against my waist. Speaking of waists, I wasted a lot of time trying to get this measurement right. I should have just taken the measurement from the original shorts, but I didn't, and in the end I ended up using it anyway, so it was just kind of like this big 10 minutes of like trying to puzzle it together and then realizing that I was just dumb. I fed it through with a bodkin and I sewed the elastic together so it kind of has some support so it doesn't undo when I'm wearing it. And then I just sewed the last little bit closed and I was done. The shorts were actual shorts. It was like, yeah, that's it. cool. And there we have it. I'm honestly a little flabbergasted by how well they turned out, and they look like shorts and they feel like shorts, and I'm just blown away, and I'm a little bit confused that it worked out so well. I was honestly not expecting to have something that looked honestly like something I would wear, and I'm definitely going to wear these after I throw them in the wash. But I know you guys want to see what they look like put on, so I've seen kids on TikTok do this. It can't be that difficult. So 1, 2, and there we have it. They fit. Yes, I am wearing leggings because no one needs to see that amount of skin. But let me spin around, model them. They fit almost exactly how the old ones fit, these over here, except this one has like a button fly and this one has no fly. It doesn't get much more simpler than like slip-on kind of shorts. That being said, I have 3 yards or so of this fabric left, so when it probably gets closer to summer, I'm definitely going to try to figure out how to make board shorts that have like pockets and are probably more appropriate for wearing in public, because these, like, it goes way too high on my thigh. I would definitely not pass the fingertip test at high schools. But with that being said, I really appreciate you guys watching and supporting, and I hope you guys are as blown away as I am that these seem to work out. But until then, I will see you guys next time. Take care. Goodbye.